$200 million. That is how much money this company made in a single year. No investors, no advertising, no sales team. And while OpenAI was burning through billions of dollars and begging the US government not to let them go bankrupt, this one company, with barely 100 people, was quietly printing money. Then Hollywood came for them. Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers, three of the most powerful entertainment companies on Earth, all filing lawsuits against this one startup at the same time.
Disney and NBC Universal, which is CNBC's parent company, are filing a joint suit against AI companies.
This is the story of Midjourney. It takes a turn no one saw coming. To understand Midjourney, you have to start with its founder, because David Holz is one of the strangest, most interesting people in Silicon Valley, and almost nobody knows his name. He grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. His father was a dentist, not in a clinic, but on a sailboat. His dad would literally sail around the Caribbean to treat his patients, and that is reportedly where the name Midjourney came from. A life spent mid-journey between places. As a teenager, Holz taught himself to code. Not because he wanted to build apps, because he wanted to hack his favorite Star Wars game to give his character special powers. That is the kind of mind we are dealing with. He studied mathematics and physics, worked simultaneously at NASA and the Max Planck Institute, was pursuing a PhD, then dropped everything, moved to San Francisco, and started his first company. That first company was called Leap Motion. They built technology that let computers understand hand gestures. Think Minority Report, except real. Andreessen Horowitz invested. Founders Fund invested. At its peak, the company was valued at $306 million. Then Apple reportedly tried to buy them. Twice. Holz said no. Twice. In 2019, after 12 years of work and over $100 million raised, Leap Motion sold for just $30 million, a 90% loss from its peak. But here is what Holz took from that failure. He watched what happens when you build for investors instead of for people. He watched venture capitalists pour in money during the hype, then disappear when the hype faded. He made a decision he would never forget. He would never take investor money again. In August 2021, Holz left Leap Motion. The world was 2 years into COVID. Silicon Valley was obsessed with one thing: large language models and diffusion AI. Holz read a research paper from Cornell University about denoying diffusion models. He immediately understood what it could do to image generation. He recruited 10 engineers. By September 2021, they had a working prototype. Now here is where Holz made the decision that changed everything. Most startups build a website, build an app, launch on Product Hunt, run ads. Holz launched Midjourney inside Discord, a gaming chat platform, and he did it with no explanation, no press release, no announcement to the world. He just opened a server and let people in. And what happened next was something no one fully predicted, because Discord is communal by design. When you generated an image, everyone in the channel saw it. Immediately. Every generation was public. Every output was visible to hundreds of other users simultaneously. This meant every single user of Midjourney was also, automatically, a walking advertisement for Midjourney. You didn't need to market it. The product marketed itself every time someone pressed enter. 1 million users, 6 months. No ads, no influencer deals, no press. For context, Threads, Meta's Twitter competitor, hit 1 million users in 1 hour. But Threads had 2 billion Instagram users to pull from. Midjourney had a Discord server and word of mouth. A Twitter thread about a cat generated with Midjourney got 100,000 likes. The Economist put a Midjourney image on their front cover. Then a Midjourney image won first place at an art competition in Colorado, and artists were furious. John Oliver dedicated 10 minutes of his HBO show to it. And 1 month after launch, just 1 month, David Holz told the Register, "We're already profitable." No investors, profitable in 30 days. By the end of 2023, David Holz confirmed to The Information that Midjourney had, and I quote, significantly surpassed $200 million in annual revenue, with almost no employees and $0 spent on marketing. According to court filings by Disney and Universal, which we will get to, the company reportedly reached $300 million in 2024, and industry trackers estimate revenue has since crossed $500 million. Now let's put this in context, because this is the number that should make your brain stop. Midjourney generates more than $5 million in revenue per employee. That is more than Dropbox, more than Slack, more than Palantir, more than Squarespace. Companies with thousands of employees and billions in funding. Midjourney, with 100 people and no investors, is outperforming all of them on efficiency. Meanwhile, OpenAI, the most famous AI company in the world, passed $20 billion in revenue in 2025, but its total projected cash flow? Negative $143 billion. They may run out of money by 2027. One company, no investors, profitable in a month. The other, the most funded startup in history, still losing money after a decade. By 2023, Midjourney's Discord server had become the most popular server in the world. 20 million members, 2 billion images generated. It held 26.8% of the entire global AI image generation market. Stripe called it their most globally distributed business of the year. Everything was working, and then it started to crack. August 2023. Website traffic, 21 million visits, peak. The highest point the company had ever seen. Then, November 2023, traffic had fallen to 15 million. Daily new signups dropped from 90,000 to 23,000. Tech channels started posting videos with titles like, "Is Midjourney dead?" And this is where the story gets interesting, because the answer to that question reveals something much more important than just one company's numbers. First, OpenAI embedded image generation directly into ChatGPT. Suddenly, 1 billion people who were already using ChatGPT every day could generate images without going anywhere else. No Discord account needed, no slash commands. Just talk to it. Second, Adobe launched Firefly. And Adobe did something Midjourney could not do. They offered legal protection. If you generated an image with Adobe Firefly and someone sued you for copyright, Adobe would defend you. For businesses, this was not a preference. It was a requirement. Third, Stable Diffusion went fully open source. Free. Run it on your own computer. The price of AI image generation dropped to $0. But here's the thing none of the tech channels were saying. Midjourney's biggest strength, Discord, had quietly become its biggest vulnerability. Enterprises cannot deploy Discord behind company firewalls. Creative professionals don't want to type /commands in a chat box when Adobe gives them a clean interface inside the tools they already pay for. And Midjourney still had no mobile app, no proper API, no enterprise compliance features. Discord had been the perfect launch platform, but Midjourney had stayed on it for 2 years longer than they should have. By the time they launched a real website in August 2024, Adobe and OpenAI had already claimed the professional market. The thing that made them explode was also the thing that held them back. That is not a failure. That is one of the most honest lessons in startup history. And Then, just when everyone had decided the story was over, it got very strange. June 11th, 2025, Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Universal, and DreamWorks file a 110-page federal lawsuit against Midjourney in Los Angeles. The complaint? A user can type one word, Yoda, and Midjourney generates a highly realistic image of Disney's copyrighted Star Wars character. No prompt engineering, no workaround, just the name. Disney's chief legal officer said publicly, "Piracy is piracy," and the fact that it's done by an AI company does not make it any less infringing. 3 months later, Warner Brothers filed their own lawsuit. Batman, Superman, Bugs Bunny, Scooby-Doo. They called Midjourney's infringement systematic, ongoing, and willful. 3 of Hollywood's 5 major studios were now suing the same company simultaneously. But here is the twist that no one was reporting. In August 2025, the same month that lawsuits were stacking up, Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announced a strategic partnership with Midjourney to license its technology. Think about what this means. Meta has thousands of AI engineers. They have spent billions on AI research, and they could not build what a 100-person company with no investors built. So instead of competing, they licensed it. And then, almost unnoticed, Midjourney posted something on social media. We are officially venturing into hardware. They hired Ahmad Abbas, the former engineering manager on Apple's Vision Pro, to lead a new hardware team in San Francisco. David Holz had built hardware before. His first company, Leap Motion, was a gesture recognition hardware startup. He knows spatial computing. Nobody outside Midjourney knows what they are building. But if you look at everything Holz has said over the years, his vision of real-time open virtual worlds, his obsession with imagination as a physical space, it is not hard to guess where this is going. So where does this leave us? Midjourney is still the #1 AI image platform in the world by market share. Revenue is still growing. The Meta partnership opened new revenue streams. The website is finally live. The lawsuits are ongoing. The Disney case alone could run through 2027 before we see a verdict. But the lawsuit is about something bigger than one company. If Disney wins, AI companies will be forced to license training data. The cost of building AI products explodes overnight. Many startups shut down. If Midjourney wins, AI companies have the legal right to train on AI publicly available content. And the entire creative industry has to figure out how to exist in a world where an algorithm can generate any character, any style, any image on demand. Stanford law professor Mark Lemley called these the most significant copyright battles since the early days of the internet. The outcomes, he said, will determine whether AI can legally learn from human creativity. That is not a startup story. That is the question of who owns imagination itself. David Holz once said, "What does it mean when computers are better at visual imagination than 99% of humans? That doesn't mean we will stop imagining. Cars are faster than humans, but that doesn't mean we stopped walking." We see this technology as an engine for the imagination. Whether a courtroom agrees or not will define the next decade of AI. And that story is still being written. This is where startup stories get honest. Next, 4 students built the fastest growing software company in history. They said no to OpenAI. Now Elon Musk is offering $60 billion. This is what the startup. Subscribe.